Books are judged by their covers, or at the very least, people will make assumptions and have expectations of a book based on its cover. Hello there, welcome back or welcome in. In a recent short, I made two promises. I said I'd share my complete book cover making process from A to Z, but I also promised to share a few basic image manipulation techniques that will allow a beginner to get great results without years of practice. Today, I'm here to deliver on one of these promises. You can tell which one based on the title of this video. I will of course detail and explain every step and every decision, laying my thought process out to the best of my ability. Bear in mind that while I have some experience working on book covers, I do not claim to be an expert. Without further ado, let's get into it. I already went over the importance of a book cover, highlighting the goals an author should have in mind when making or ordering one. I'd said that the cover art can convey an idea, an image, or communicate a feeling to potential readers. It should be symbolic of the content of the book, maybe dropping hints or little bits and pieces from the story, but still making sure not to cram everything of importance into one single image. Now, if I speak for myself as an author, I don't have an already established audience of my own or fame to my name, nor do I have the budget to mass promote my books, which makes the attractiveness of my covers all the more important. The two big steps I follow to make my covers are research and then crafting. The process that I will show you in this video led to the creation of this book cover. The genre is dark paranormal romance. Now, I made one tiny mistake with this cover in the research phase. I'll explain it as I go. Okay, the research. Let me lay out the basics that help guide me through the making of this cover. Starting with the genre. The dominant genre of the novel I am working on is romance. Now, the story takes place in a parallel universe where the paranormal is very much present and part of reality. The story also does feature mystery, action, and dark elements to it, but the overall level of focus that is put onto the romance and paranormal aspect of it leads me to categorize it as a paranormal romance. And the cover should reflect that, well, more or less, depending on the art style I choose. As for the tropes, strangers to lovers, slow burn, and destined to be together or fated. The target audience is not a simple afterthought you only consider when making your book cover or when marketing your work to people. You can't just write a story that contains graphic depictions of violence and adult themes and then decide at the very end of the process that you're going to market that to children. Imagine if the movie Saw had a different marketing campaign, something like, "Hey kids, want to learn about the anatomy of the human body?" It wouldn't have ended so well for the franchise now, would it? Your target audience is something that should be on your mind throughout your entire writing process. For my book, which again is a paranormal romance, I wrote it with a specific demographic in mind. Mind you, I do not expect that nobody that is outside of this group will ever read it or be attracted to it, but considering I picked a first-person point of view, the readers will experience the story through the eyes of the young female and male protagonists and be very much immersed in their thought process in the moment. Based on that fact, and statistically, I predict that the majority of my reader base for this book will predominantly consist of young women. Again, I am not saying that nobody other than young women will be interested in it. It's not set in stone. I am talking of an overall expectation that every author should have when building their story, based on the gender and age, as well as the attitude and level of maturity of the protagonists, the dialogue between the characters, the language used for the narration, the topics discussed within the story. Bottom line here, my target audience should be predominantly women in the age range of like from 18 to 25, 26 maximum. So my cover should reflect that through some parts, such as the color scheme or the typography, but that's just an example. Let's play a game. Here is a list of nominees for Best Romance Novels in 2023 from Goodreads. Let's look at some of the covers and try to deduce bits and pieces about the books they belong to. This one here, I know nothing about it. It gives off luxury, immaculate, strict, expensive, order, clean, rich. These are the first words that come to mind when looking at this cover. Now the colors, purple white, golden yellow, purple, colors that can refer to royalty. I mean, even the title has to do with royalty. Next up, the elements. Feathers can be an element from the story, but it can also fit in the theme of luxury and delicacy. But it can also refer to lightness, something or someone ungrounded. The crown, again, royalty. Typography, same thing. I can barely tell anything from the background, so I don't want to assume what it is. Does it say anything about the age range of the audience? Let's say it's not targeted towards someone that's under 17 at least. With the way it's put together, let's say it's geared mainly towards women. Keep in mind, I am speaking generally. Again, I'm not saying that no 16-year-old boy could ever pick a book that looks like this. But statistics do exist, and the majority of 15, 16-year-old boys will probably not be interested in this. Now, are statistics always and 100% accurate? No, because there are many factors that interfere with them. But still, when marketing your work, doesn't matter what it is, a song, a movie, an animation, a video game, it's best to research the statistics and keep them in mind. Moving on. It doesn't exactly give me a hint about the subgenre. I could say it's contemporary romance, but it might be a historical one, even though I'm inclined to believe it's not. I'm not sure. Let's read the blurb. Okay. Controlled and proper to a full. Okay, we're already in that lexicon with strict and order. Purple? Oh, so the color may as well refer to her hair color, not royalty. But it would still fall into what I said before, bits and pieces of your story on your cover. What next? A CEO vote? A media empire? A billionaire? Yeah, it all falls in line, doesn't it? Rich, luxury, expensive, royalty. So it is a billionaire romance. See how much you can tell through a book cover alone? We could do more examples, but it would just make the video super long, longer than it will already turn out. But whatever genre you're writing, try playing this game with published books in that same genre. All subgenres included. See what you can gather and learn from it. Now for the art style. Considering I don't have much experience with romance cover design, I decided to spend some time browsing around for examples of romance books that came out before mine. I mean, romance in general. From what I was able to find, I made up my own style chart, if we can call it that, of popular and reoccurring styles of romance cover art. I immediately split them into two main categories, the 2D, or the hand-drawn and painted, and then the 3D, which includes photography and image manipulation. You pick which one you'll go with for your book based on which you think will suit the tone of your story better. There are no rules, don't get me wrong, it's not strict to apply. Whether you go with 3D or 2D when you look at the result and then look back at the content of your novel, you should be able to feel if the cover does it justice. On to the subcategories. Let me look at some paranormal romance book covers here on this list from Goodreads again. Now, should I make it minimalistic and symbolic? Should I just rely on typography? Should I go with real people photography? Or should I just make something up through photo manipulation? For this book of mine, I'll go with 3D. I definitely don't want simple real people photography, and I definitely don't want something too minimalistic. I think that with a bit of editing, I can create a balanced mix between minimalistic and photography, because I don't want it to be too simple, but I don't want it to be extravagant either. It just needs to symbolize or contain the main prevalent factors of the story. For example, the cover for my Greybird collection, which is a small collection of short stories. I built a fictional town from already existing images, and I made this town the focus because the common denominator in these stories is the town. The happenings that are discussed in the stories all happen within this town and nowhere else in the world. The stories do contain a creepy and tragic factor. That's why you'll notice I went for colder, grayish colors, a hint of despair. You can also note the odd placement of the buildings and the faint distortion effect I added to it. It symbolizes the fact that people who live in Greybird aren't really inhabitants, but more so prisoners, and things aren't always what they seem in this place. As for the cover of the fanfiction I'm writing, well, it is a teen werewolf fantasy, so that justifies the wolves as well as the presence of the moon here. The colors I went for are still cold but not depressing, because unlike in the Greybird collection, this story focuses on the efforts of the characters and their development throughout the conflict that they will eventually come to solve. And the overall tone is, well, it's not unserious, but less serious than the one in the Greybird collection. The platform. I published the novel for which I made this cover long before this video, and back then I made a mistake. Remember when I said to look at the statistics and cater to the major audience of a genre? Yeah, I'd forgotten that it was a new platform and romance readers tend to gravitate towards a specific cover art style. I still got offered a contract, but after signing it, my editor advised me to change my cover art, because readers on web novel click more on romance novels that have their main leads on the cover, unless you're already established as a writer on the platform and they know what to expect from you. The point is, you need to research the platform you're publishing on as well. And I'm not even talking about the format and the sizing. That should also be one of your priorities before starting brainstorming for design ideas. With that being said, I'm still going to share the making process of this cover because I really loved how it turned out. Alrighty, I have now my main pointers that I can follow to create an adequate cover for this book. Since I said that I will go with photo manipulation, I will need some images to work with. And for that, I will go on my favorite royalty-free image websites. Starting with Canva. In the previous video, I made a short demonstration on how to use this website, during which I found some interesting images that I thought I could use for my cover. Yes, I was already thinking of ideas when I was recording then. Okay, so I am making a photo manipulation, which means I'll blend separate elements in order to get what I want. It's a paranormal romance, a dark paranormal romance, so I want the cover to have some darkness. Cold colors, yes, but they'll have some warmth to them. It's a romance novel, not a tragedy, so they'll have their happy ending. And for that, I'll go for a warm purple. And the background should have some mysticism to it. It should draw away from realism a bit. Okay, the first element I want is a crystal ball, because the story involves witchcraft and some sort of divination. Remember the tropes. They are fated to each other, but they'll have to discover that throughout the story. I like a few of them here. The second thing that I want is a moon. story about werewolves, full moons, yada yada yada. I'll maybe add a wolf as an element. Now, I did say I didn't want real people photography, but I didn't say anything about silhouettes. That will be the indicator for the romance parts. So I'll maybe find some models and just work with their shadows or silhouettes. Here we are on Photoshop. I'll speed the process up a bit. You can slow the video down to see the steps more clearly. But this isn't to be a tutorial. I'll make a separate video using a free image manipulation app, as I promised before. I really enjoy blending elements and playing with the results. It's actually been a little while since I've played with Photoshop. I mean, I do for the thumbnails, but they're nowhere near the fun I get when playing to make my book covers. I kind of miss it. Alright, I think this is going to be it for this video. I really do hope it's helpful. If not, I'll cry. If you did like and enjoy this video, then maybe leave a like. Or maybe even subscribe if you enjoy my content. It's geared towards fiction writers mostly. I do hope to see you again very soon for my next video. But until then, take care of yourself and bye-bye.